Hello everyone! So I am coming at you with a sort of half vlog, half review type video. I've never really done anything like this before. I've tried to make vlog videos in the past. I haven't edited them properly yet, and there wasn't a lot of actually talking involved because at the time I wasn't really used to talking to the camera yet, and in some ways I'm still not, but here I am trying my best. The point of this video is that today I am going to go and see the Prince of Egypt musical. It was a gift ticket from one of my friends for Christmas. Thank you, Kirsty. I am so excited because as soon as I found out that they were making a musical based on the Prince of Egypt, I lost it. I was like, this is going to be incredible, this is going to be amazing. Prince of Egypt was one of my absolute favourite films, so I'm really excited. So I'm just going to talk a little bit first about the Prince of Egypt. So if you are here just for the review and you don't want any of the like vlog footage or anything, then go to this timestamp right here and you will get there. Also, very quickly, sorry about all of the mess behind me. My family is actually moving on Monday. Today is Saturday, the 8th. So the show has only been out since Wednesday. So this is the fourth day. I think we're going to see their 5th performance because they've got a matinee on today as well. So, Prince of Egypt, for those of you who don't know, is a 1998 DreamWorks film based on Moses and freeing the Jews from Egypt. It is a musical film with various different songs, and some of them you may have heard already, not even really knowing that they were from that film, such as Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, When You Believe. That's quite a popular one that sometimes goes on TV, and a lot of people don't actually realise it's from a kids film. Basically, it starts off with him going down the river, being adopted by the Egyptians, and then essentially finding out who he is and what he's meant to do through God and the burning bush, and freeing the Jews from Egypt. Spoiler alert. With the musical, I don't actually know that much about it. I've kind of wanted to stay a bit behind. I didn't really want to know. I've seen quite a few of the new songs that they're advertising on their Facebook page, which I fully recommend that if you're interested, you go and check it out. You can see some of their choreography, you can see some of their new songs. There's one, Never in 1,000 Years or something, which sounds amazing. And I think it's gonna add a lot more depth to the characters. What I'm curious about when we go to see it is, are they going to be adapting the film, or how am I going to put this? What I'm curious is, are they going to be fleshing out and adapting the film as well as the biblical story, or will it just be fleshing out the film? Because the films, obviously, they stick to the biblical story fairly well, although they do obviously say they have to take some creative license for it. So I'm just curious about what the stage show does. Is it just going to be we're fleshing out this film and we're adding in new scenes and all this sort of stuff? Or is it going to be, we have taken the film, but we're using the biblical story to flesh it out a bit more? Now, I don't know the biblical story that well, so it would be quite interesting to see. So I'm going to try and keep this as spoiler free as I can, because obviously if you are interested in seeing it, I don't want to ruin anything for you. Definitely going to put in things like runtime and how many new songs there might be, if there's going to be new scenes and such. I've already heard some people saying that it's apparently 3 hours long. Obviously we'll find that out. I'm trying to go in there with a completely open mind. I don't think I'm going to be able to film much of the Dominic Theatre, whether it be outside or actually the stage, because I know sometimes they want to keep that hidden from people, which is obviously fair enough. May use my phone, but only if they allow it. I'm not going to sneakily do it. I'm not that sort of person. I will keep what they want hidden. Let's go into the vlog footage of my day. I'm going to meet up with my friends, go to London. We're going to go and have a meal, just walk around for a little bit, see what we get up to, and then we are going to watch the show. So I'm really excited. I'm like so jittery, and I'm just really happy, and I cannot thank my friend enough for buying these tickets for me. Do you know what, I'm gonna try and do an honest review, but I think it is gonna be a little bit biased because of the nostalgia. Rambled on enough, let's go. Something that you should know about me is that I don't cry in the theatre much. But I think I must have cried about 4 times just through being like really overwhelmed. Okay, so I'm gonna try and articulate this review as well as I can, but it's proving difficult because there's like a lot going on in my brain right now. First things first, I have to say that I was going to try and do this as spoiler free as possible, but I think I'm going to have to say some spoilers. So it's not going to be anything about the actual like story or what's there, but there's going to be things like talking about anything that might have been missing or talking about costumes and stuff. But overall it's going to be a fairly okay review, okay, so you don't have to worry. Let's start off with like basically the show overall. Holy baloney. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, this isn't really much of a review apart from me just saying how amazing it was. Okay, so they start off the show as with the film with Deliver Us, and right from the get-go you are just like, it's like someone's hit you in the face with just amazing vocals, amazing scenery, amazing lighting. It's just, it's pretty remarkable. You can tell that they have been ploughing at this for months and months and months, and the trust and the faith that they have in each other to do some of the choreography that they do is absolutely incredible. Deliver Us was the very first moment that I actually then started to well up, because the vocals were so powerful, and it was, I'm not as articulate as I thought I was going to be. It was amazing. It was so strong. It was everything that you could probably like remember from the film and more. There were so many of them on stage. I mean, I don't know how many people there was in the like movie recording, but there was obviously so many people on stage, and the voices just carried through the entire theatre. I think what might be easier is if I break this down into sort of like segments. So let's start off with number 1, the storyline. So the storyline is essentially the same. You're not going to be feeling like anything is missed out from the story. It is definitely the same. However, they have definitely added things in. When they have fleshed things out, I think it is that they have fleshed out the movie characters and the movie itself rather than anything from the biblical story. There are some things in there that I don't necessarily think happened in the biblical story, as much as obviously I mentioned at the beginning I don't know it so well, but it was just more that you kind of like know it wouldn't have happened. I sort of mentioned at the beginning about the review that said that there were a couple of scenes that had been added in. I don't know whether or not I said all of this, but so there were a couple of scenes that did kind of feel like they were wedged in. They did fit in with the story. It wasn't like they didn't make any sense to be there, but they weren't necessarily necessary. And there was a couple of scenes from the film as well that I think, for me personally, could have been done a little bit differently. It's really hard not to go into details. I would just say chariot racing. I think that could have been done differently, or not even really needed at all. However, that included an original song that I really enjoyed. I thought that was good. Yeah, so there were some extra scenes. A couple of them did feel a little bit long, I'm not gonna lie. So the first act racked up to be about 1 hour and about 25, maybe 30 minutes. So it started shortly after 7:30, and I think probably actually more like 7:35, 7:40. And then it was 9:05, I think, when we had the interval. So it is a very long first act, but you don't necessarily feel like it's long. You don't sit there and you don't think like, oh God, this is dragging on, well, at least for me. You know, and everybody that I was with actually, they did say, you know, oh, you know, my butt was getting numb or whatever being on the chairs, but they weren't saying that they were bored or felt like, you know, it was dragging and that they did need a break. So that was good. Act 2 was significantly shorter, so we got out at about, I did check my time, I think we got out about 1/4 or 10:30, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but it wasn't as long. And it was obviously a lot more fast-paced because there's quite a lot of things that do happen in Act 2. What I will say is that the story at the end of Act 1, it is after the burning bush, and so then from Act 2, it's basically Moses returning to Egypt. So that's just, you know, it's not a spoiler, it's just so that you know sort of where the story is going. I honestly don't think there's much more that I can say about the story itself, because I do think that it was done fantastically. I think that they've added in, I mean, they have created a lot more character depth, especially the brotherhood between Ramesses and Moses. Ramesses and Moses. You know, I think that added a really nice element to it as well. And also actually with his mother, as in the Egyptian mother, they added in a bit more there. I think story-wise, I don't think you'd be disappointed. I do think that potentially you may think, you know, oh, well, that was a bit of a weird scene to put in, or oh, why was that scene in there? But once again, I don't think it's anything that you're gonna be annoyed about. I don't know. I've had people saying mixed reviews, but I honestly don't understand why. I think it's absolutely incredible. So secondly, I think that we should talk about the songs. So I am going to put a list of them. I'm going to basically film the musical numbers and I'm going to insert them. So if you don't want to know what they are, then please look away now. Okay, they're gone. You can come back if you didn't want to see that. So as you can, if you did look at it, so that was in the program. So if you do buy a program beforehand, you're going to see it anyway. So there are quite a lot of songs in Act 1. On its own, there are 15 songs. A couple of them are reprises, so they're not as long as a sort of like a feature song. Act 1 finale, which is just literally called Act 1 finale, is quite long because it's a bunch of little songs with dialogue in between, and then a big ending for Act 1, which was very, very, very good, and it kept you definitely wanting to come back for more. So the new songs that they've put in, they definitely fit the flow. Somebody took a break. Oh my gosh, Shelley. If you're wondering why I'm talking quietly, it's because obviously it's probably gone midnight right now and people are trying to sleep. The new songs that they've put in, you can tell that they are different, but then again, I don't know whether or not I'm saying this because obviously I grew up with the film. There were just a couple that were a bit fresher, but once again, I do think that they merge in very well. Once again, for me, nothing beat like the original songs that were in there. Every one of those was absolutely amazing. My favourite of the new songs was one that was called Heartless, which was at the very sort of near the end of Act 2. So it was a song called Heartless that was sung by Nefertari, who's Ramesses' wife, sung by Tanisha Spring, and oh my gosh, like, honestly, that, my heart absolutely, like, I felt it go, like, sort of up to my throat. It was such a beautiful song. And what I feel sort of sorry about is that because of the way that the scene goes, that particular song ends and a bit of instrumental continues playing, and then it goes into the next scene. So then what is a shame is that we didn't get to applaud her. So Tanisha, if you happen to be looking at this, I have no idea why you would be looking at this, but if you happen to be looking at this, like, freaking well done. Like, honestly, that was so beautiful, and I can tell that, like, if, you know, I hope you guys are bringing out a soundtrack, because I would be listening to that song on repeat, and it is a song that I know that I will be belting out in my shower and wandering around my house and making people, like, get absolutely fed up with me. But that song, out of all of them for me, of the new ones, was just, it was, you know, for that particular scene, it was brilliant, and it set a tone. and I'm just really sad that we didn't get to applaud you because of the way that the scenes cut into each other. So definitely please take this as my as my applause, because it was amazing. My other note for the songs is that I'm actually really disappointed that they cut out my favorite, like one of my favorite songs, which is Playing with the Big Boys. So there's only one high priest, Hotep, instead of having two high priests. Can't remember their names, which is like, it was fine, like it worked really well having just one. It wasn't like you were missing two. It was just a shame that that particular song was cut out. The first part of it is touched upon, but then not the rest. I mean, perhaps it would have made Act 2 a bit heavier. I don't really know why they cut it out. I would have loved to have heard the ensemble singing, you know, all of the Egyptian gods behind it, but that was one of my favourite songs, and I remember, you know, building up to it thinking like, oh my gosh, I wonder if they're going to do it, and I really hope, like, how are they going to do it, you know, turning the staff into a snake and everything. So when I bought the programme and looked at the musical numbers and I saw that that wasn't on there, yeah, that was probably the only thing about the songs that really disappointed me. A couple of the songs I found they kind of like stopped to put some dialogue in between, which there's nothing particularly wrong with that, and it really did help move the story along in ways that you needed it to. But sometimes you would be sort of, you know, feeling the emotion and having it build up, and then it would stop because the dialogue would come in. And I mean, for me, who is a sucker for, you know, some really good songs and, you know, like listening to the soundtrack and stuff, you know, I hope that a lot of the small, like the dialogue won't be in the soundtrack if they bring out a soundtrack. Are you bringing out one? Because I hope so. Obviously watching it, it was okay. I think it was the plagues. There was like a lot of to and fro, and there was a lot of like, here's a portion of the plagues and then here's some dialogue, and here's another portion of the plagues and here's some dialogue. It, you know, it did work in the sense that it filled in some gaps that I think if they weren't there, it would have been lost on some people what was happening, especially if you're not really aware of the story or the film, and what particularly is happening at that moment. But I would have just loved, you know, the plagues is again a favourite, and obviously they've changed the arrangement, which keeps it fresh. I just really like the old one, and I like the sort of argument between Ramesses and Moses thing, and I feel like that was a little bit lost. They sort of, I think, had another song over it. I'm trying to remember, so much has happened. It sounded good. Like, it's really hard to sort of have a critique or have something negative about this, because overall as a show it was amazing. Okay, so on to costumes. There's not a lot for me to talk about, really. The Hebrews, oh, which by the way, I kept on saying Jews at the very beginning, and all the way through the show they were calling them Hebrews, and I did ask my friends what the difference was, and apparently like Hebrews were what they were called, and then when they obviously went across the Red Sea and made it, I guess, to Jerusalem, that's when they became Jews. So they're kind of the same thing. If I'm gonna call them Hebrews now, because I don't want to like get it wrong, because I am ignorant to it, but if there is a different explanation, then please definitely let me know. So costume wise, the Hebrews and the Midianites, basically what Zipporah is, Moses' wife, and you know, the people of the desert who he goes to. Sure, like I'm sure everyone knows what they're called, and I'm just doing it wrong. Midianites. I'm just gonna say that. Hebrews and Midianites, their costumes were incredible, and there were a couple of reveals with some of the costumes due to what was going on stage, and they were really, really good. They really fit the part. You could kind of tell exactly what they were meant to be. You could tell with the Hebrews that obviously they were slaves and they were impoverished, and they looked like they were wearing rags. And then with the people of the desert, you could see, you know, they had the spangles and, you know, the sort of kind of harem-ish sort of trousers and the bandanas and everything like that, and it really, really worked. Where I was most disappointed, and this is probably the thing that I was most disappointed with, is the Egyptian outfits. Now, I can't really say what is historically accurate. All I can go on is obviously things that I've seen on the internet or historical television programs on what Egyptians would have worn, and obviously what they looked like in the Prince of Egypt animation film. So obviously in the animated film, hoping I can get a picture, they looked like this, and in this show they kind of looked like this. I guess kind of like 70s maybe. Is it 70s or 80s? I'm not entirely sure which decade I'm trying to reference, but they were all in white and they were wearing like white trousers and then like a kind of like a long white coat, and it felt like it was just, you know, one shoulder pad away from being like sort of like an 80s thing. And the pharaoh had this sort of like armor sort of thing on, including like the sort of the plate things with the tassels, and I don't know, it didn't work for me. And they all had their like normal hair, which I'm not suggesting you know, that when you get cast in the theatre that you should shave your head, but I feel like there was just not a lot of Egyptian look or feel of the outfits. They still looked really good and they still looked lovely. I just couldn't get over the white trousers personally. And you know, I'm not saying I wanted all the men to be topless, but I was hoping for some, you know, the sort of I don't know, it's probably not called a skirt, but you know, the sort of warrior skirt sort of thing that they wore. I could have worn like a sort of a sash thing if they didn't want to be completely topless or anything. And Moses, in the animated film, he has the wig on. So then when he's like running through the desert after he's decided to exile himself, he like, you know, he pulls that off and then you can see his like curly hair, which I think as well kind of represents like, you know, look, he's actually Hebrew, like that, you know, I feel like that hair was like Hebrew hair. And I'm not saying that they actually would like try and hide it, because I know Egyptians used to wear wigs, but it just seemed a bit of a weird choice to have them in these kind of like suits and stuff. And at one point when they took the jackets off, they were wearing kind of sleeveless, it looked a little bit tank toppy, which kind of then added to the sort of 80s sort of vibe. And yeah, I mean, they looked good. I just didn't feel like they looked Egyptian-like or pharaoh-like or anything. The women looked a lot more Egyptian to me. They sort of had that white dress with the sort of the fitted shape, and then it went down. I'm really bad at like describing what they looked like. Yeah, they looked a lot more Egyptian to me. But the men, yeah, it was the men's outfits that I was really disappointed with. I just don't think that it looked Egyptian, and that's probably the biggest thing for me, was that. Which hurts me to say, because I just want to compliment it all and I want to compliment everything. And I think that if you are the costume designer here, I mean, I think that you should be proud, because so many of those outfits were absolutely stunning. I just wish there was a little bit more Egyptian, and that is just me. And maybe some people really liked it, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was a lot more Egyptian than I realised. It's just not what I'm used to, and it's not just what it's. Yeah, I don't know. That's my only like little nitty gritty. Choreography, oh my gosh. Okay, so the ensemble are freaking amazing, and I think that anyone could agree that regardless of whether or not you're main or secondary character, without the ensemble there would be no show. You know, like, okay, fair enough, you need an understudy for Moses and you need an understudy for Ramesses and, you know, Zipporah and all these people. Like, fair enough, yeah, you do need understudies for them. But if you lost even just like 5 of those ensemble, it would not be the show that I saw. The way, I think I touched upon it before, the way that they trusted each other with some of the moves that they were doing, oh my gosh, like, I could not imagine having that much faith in my own body, let alone other people. They were like climbing over each other, they were like rolling on one another. There's an amazing move, and I'm going to talk about this. I can't really say that it's a spoiler because it's just a dance move, but there's an amazing move, and it was like it's like 3 couples of men and women, and the men were sort of crouched over and the woman was sort of then leaning over him. They did like this flip, and the woman as well managed to then like roll the man and like support the man, and they both just like rolled, and I was flabbergasted. I was so like, I was like, how? Yeah, I'm speechless with that, because, and there was this other one where like the woman's leg, like I think it was the same group of couples, I'm not entirely sure, but her leg just like was over here. And I was thinking, I don't bend that way. Like, no one can bend that way. How do you do that? It was almost like sorcery. They did a lot of body propping. which I know some people don't like, but I love body propping. I think that, you know, being able to visualize and use people as different things is just such an ingenious way of like being able to move the scene and being able to put on things on stage that you're just not going to be able to do. For example, like the river at the very beginning. I'm not going to talk any more on that because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but let's just say that things like that, things like the chariot, things like the burning bush, they would not be possible without people body propping in one way or another. That's all I'm going to say, because I'm not going to ruin any moments for you. But the comfort that these people must have with one another, and I get it's your job. Like, you have, if you know, obviously this is something that most people, well, I say everyone who's in theatre is going to have a passion for theatre and is going to have a passion. Like, if you've trained for years and years and years to be a dancer, you're going to have a passion for being a dancer. And especially when you're this fresh on a show, you're going to, you know, be still excited, you're going to still be keen, and you're going to be lively and stuff. However, they did 2 shows today and you would not have known, but they showed no fatigue, no tiredness. I mean, all of their physical strength and stamina, wow, I can only dream of being that like fit, and the agility, like, whew, they really made it stunning. I mean, you know, visual effects aside, even just dancing aside, it would, I mean, without the body propping, and even with, you know, without the dancing and everything, it just would not have been the show. And the fact that they were all singing at the same time and moving their bodies in this way, amazing. And you know, this applause is especially for you. Okay, so I mean, I don't know if this review will help anyone if you're contemplating whether or not you want to go. I know that when movies get adapted into musicals, it can be kind of hit or miss, and you kind of, you know, don't want your childhood ruined and stuff. But I promise you, I don't think this will. I mean, I know that everyone has differing opinions, and I appreciate that obviously what I say might not be what you think, but I would fully suggest giving it a go. Obviously they have merchandise. I've got a little pin as well. My camera is about to die, so I'm going to wrap this up. Hopefully I haven't ruined it for you. Hopefully you will appreciate it, and I hope that you go and see it, and I hope that everyone has an amazing night. And if any of the cast do happen to watch this, bravo, you have literally made my year. And it's only February. Good night everyone. See you later. Bye.